Once upon a time, there was a castle.
Once upon a time? Every story starts like that. More like 3,000 upon a time.
Fine. 3,000 upon a time, there was a castle on a hill.
Why is it always a castle?
Because that's where people lived back then. Do you want to hear the story or not?
Yes.
And in this castle...
Was it tall?
The castle?
The hill?
Yes. They were both the tallest. And at the top of the tallest tower, in the tallest castle, on the tallest hill, lived a lonely princess.
Sigh.
Wait, did you say lonely or lovely?
Lonely.
Sigh.
But she was also lovely.
Was she cool?
I don't know. She liked to comb her hair a lot.
She doesn't sound very cool.
Then one day, the valiant young prince rode in on his trusty horse.
Huzzah!
He fought off the evil trolls and slayed the dragon and destroyed the wicked witch.
I'm melting. I'm melting.
Wow, that's a lot.
And when the prince arrived at the top of the tall tower and broke down the door to the princess's room and rushed over to her and said,
I am Prince Handsome, come to rescue you, for I am your one true love.
My knight in shining armor. Yes, and you are my one true love.
and they lived happily ever after.
Okay, Mom, so, a couple of notes.
Notes?
First of all, trolls, dragons, and witches? That's a little much for one story. Pick one.
Oh, okay.
Second, Prince Handsome?
Huzzah!
What's wrong with Prince Handsome?
I mean, is that his only quality?
I'm also quite tall.
It's just so cliched and stereotypical. What if he was Prince Kindness or Prince Great Sense of Humor? Even Prince Steady Job would be an upgrade.
I see.
And I gotta say, the whole damsel in distress thing feels kinda played out. It's 2020, Mom. Girls don't need rescuing anymore.
Oh.
So how about this? What if the prince and princess, I don't know, start their own small business together? Or an indie rock band? Or, maybe she rescues him. Oh, this is good. Are you writing all this down?
Writing this down?
Look, don't get me wrong. Your story had potential. But if this is going to be my nightly bedtime story, it needs a lot of work. So you better get writing. Good night.
My own kid just critiqued my bedtime story?
Hey, don't sweat it. Happens to the best of us.
Thanks. Wait, who are you?
I'm the friendly narrator.
Narrator. Why is there a narrator in my house?
Because we're telling a story. Or I'm telling a story, and you're just a character our writers invented to be in the story.
I'm just a character?
That's right. You don't actually exist other than a dozen or so lines. In fact, none of this is real. You're not in a house. It's not really bedtime. That's not even your kid.
Okay. I think you need to leave.
Let me explain. Today's show is about stories and characters. And your mom character reading a bedtime story to your pretend child is a great way to kick things off. But now you're done, so you can go for now.
What do you mean I'm done? That's it? I don't exist anymore?
Well, you exist as an actor, but we don't need your character again until later, so if you don't mind...
Mind? Why would I mind? I just found out I don't exist except for a few precious lines of dialogue. Do I even have a name, or am I just Mom? Mom. Just a generic, clueless mom. Now who's playing into stereotypes? Wait, who's this guy with the headset? What? You think if you just come and take my microphone, I'll stop talking?
All right, that wasn't awkward at all. But none of it was real. It was just a fun way to show you how anything can happen when you're telling a story. But what makes a story a fairy tale? Where do fairy tales come from? And why do we tell them? It's time for another whiff of science on...
Who smarted? Who's smarted? Who's smart? Is it you? Is it me? Is it science or history? Listen up, everyone. We make smarting lots of fun on Who's Smarted.
Psst. Hey, kid. Question. How old do you think the oldest fairy tale is? Is it A, 60 years old,
Well, I remember when rock and roll was cool.
B, 600 years old,
Well, I remember when sword fighting was cool.
C, 6,000 years old,
Well, I remember when stone tools were cool.
or D, 6 bajillion years old?
Huh?
Well, bajillion isn't a real number, so we can eliminate D. So what do you think? Is it A, B, or C? Got your answer? Would you believe the earliest fairy tale is thought to be over 6,000 years old? It's about a blacksmith who sold his soul to the devil to gain supernatural powers. Crazy, right?
Uh-huh.
But what about a more modern story, like Cinderella?
Don't turn into a pumpkin.
We all know Cinderella. How old do you think that story is? 70 years old, 100 years old, or 1,000 years old? Well, the first Disney version of Cinderella came out in 1950, so that means it must be 70 years. Nope.
Huh?
Way before the animated movie, earlier versions of the Cinderella story were told in ancient China over 1,000 years ago. So how come fairy tales have lasted so long? To find out, we're going to talk to two brothers who know more about fairy tales than just about anyone, right after this short message.
I'm Dr. Laurie Santos, host of the Happiness Lab podcast. Making new friends and maintaining old friendships is a great way to boost your happiness. But sadly, we don't always feel up for being sociable.
If I was approaching a stranger, my heart would race, I was going to throw up. I just had so much anxiety around
So
it.
in a new season of the show, I'll tackle how to make firm friendships firmer, right through to the joy you can find in talking to total strangers.
I'm very much enjoying your animal print scarf, madam.
So listen to the Happiness Lab on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows.
And now, back to Who Smarted. Okay, we're back. But I'm not alone. I'm joined by two people who know more about fairy tales than anyone. It's the Brothers Grimm. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I am Wilhelm. And I am Jacob. And we are here to tell you tales. Yeah, good one, Jake. Very good one, Will.
Okay, so you're like the two most famous fairy tale authors ever. But what makes a story a fairy tale?
Fairy tales are crazy stories that exist to spark the imagination of the listener. Yeah, anything can happen in fairy tale. They take a place in a magical land with made-up creatures or talking animals.
Hello, I'm a goat.
Where people who can perform wondrous tasks and have supernatural powers. Yeah, but even though it's a make-believe place where anything can happen, the audience can find similarities to things in their real lives. Yeah, through imagination and storytelling, we learn things about ourselves and our own world. Exactly. These tales may be fantastical, but the values and lessons they impart are very real. There's always a moral to the story, something for people to learn.
That's great, guys. But how is it they've existed for thousands of years?
One of the best things about fairy tales is they don't need to be written down. We just tell them over and over again, and even if it changes a little, that's okay, as long as there's still a connection with the listener. Yeah, even the made-up bedtime stories your mommy or your daddy or grandparents tell you off the top of their heads count as fairy tales. And one day when you grow up, if you tell your own kids those same stories, boom! You've created a long-lasting fairy tale. Who knows? It could be as famous as the 200-plus fairy tales we created.
Wow, 200?
200-plus, but who's counting?
That's a lot of fairy tales. Any we might have heard of?
For sure, you must have heard of Aschenputtel. You know it as Cinderella.
I said pumpkin.
Ah, of course.
There's also Dornröschen. Sleeping Beauty.
Oh!
Schneewittchen. Snow White. Hansel und Gretel. Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, I got that one.
We also wrote Rapunzel, Rumpelstiltskin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Red Riding Hood, and The Three Little Pigs.
So you basically wrote every story of my entire childhood.
Yeah, but many of our stories were just retellings of ancient folk tales.
Like Cinderella was based on a Chinese story over 1,000 years old.
And we are not the only ones making up or retelling these old stories. After us was a man from Denmark called Hans Christian Andersen. We call him HCA. Yeah, HCA created hundreds of fairy tales like The Princess and the Pea, Thumbelina, The Little Mermaid, The Emperor's New Clothes,
This clothing style is going to be huge.
The Ugly Duckling, and The Snow Queen.
I don't know if I know the Snow Queen.
Do you know the movie Frozen?
Yeah.
then you know the story of the Snow Queen.
Ah, so Frozen is based on the Snow Queen.
Yes, and it's become way more popular than Cinderella or Snow White these days. Hey, bro, let it go.
Anyway, that's all the time we have.
Okay, bye. Keep reading.
I don't know about you, kid, but to me, the coolest thing I just learned about fairy tales is you can make up your own. That's right. All you have to do is imagine a person living in a far-off land or right where you live. They could be a farm boy or a girl living in the woods or a prince or princess. They could even be you.
Huh?
So take a second and think about a character you'd like to put in a fairy tale. Have you imagined your character? Good. Now imagine your character is dealing with a difficult situation, like an evil stepmother who won't let them leave the house, or an evil queen that turns people into goats.
I'm still a goat.
Or maybe there's a giant monster nearby who hates your character.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
Then all you have to do is figure out a way for your character to overcome the difficult situation and live happily ever after. They could use superpowers or magic beans or find an enchanted sword or a talking flying horse.
Hello.
There really are no limits at all other than your imagination.
Hey, Mom, it's bedtime. Did you finish rewriting that story yet?
Hold on, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I am Wilhelm. And I am Jacob. And we are here to tell you tales.
Oh, thank goodness you're here. She's right upstairs. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to Who Smarted. Please, let your friends know about the show. And let them know that a new episode comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a single one. Today's episode, Fairy Tales, was written by Jason Williams and voiced by Charlotte Cohn, Imogen Williams, Jason Williams, and yours truly, Jerry Colbert. Technical direction and sound design by Josh Hahn. Who Smarted was recorded and mixed at the Relic Room Studio. Theme song by Brian Suarez. Lyrics written and performed by Adam Tex Davis. Who Smarted was created and produced by Adam Tex Davis and Jerry Colbert. This has been an Atomic Entertainment production.